Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Melanie Cassar, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Flying Officer Gregory Young. This evening, we are honoured to acknowledge Her Excellency, Mrs. Martha A. Mavromatis, High Commissioner of the Republic of Cyprus to Australia, and His Grace, Bishop Bartholomew of Sharopolis, the Archiepiscopal Vicar of Canberra, and the accompanying delegation. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Club Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Frederick Kelly. Fred Kelly was born in 1893 to Thomas and Mary Jane Kelly. Although born in Canberra, he probably spent many of his early years in Golgomari near Mudgee. When he was 12 years old, he left home to live on a sheep station at Gilgandra. After a number of years, the family running the station moved to Sydney, and Fred went with them, completing his education at a public school in Woollahra. Despite moving away, he remained well known in Mudgee and went on to work as a labourer in Sydney. Fred Kelly enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force a little over a month after the outbreak of war in 1914. He underwent a period of training in Australia before leaving for active service overseas with the 3rd Battalion on the 20th of October 1914. The 3rd Battalion arrived in Egypt on the 2nd of December, and the men continued training in the desert for several months. On the 25th of April 1915, the 3rd Battalion landed at Anzac Cove as part of the 2nd and 3rd waves. The men rushing for the heights in confusion under fire. After a few days, the battalion was able to reorganise and began a period of defending the shaky Anzac perimeter. In early August 1915, the 3rd Battalion took part in an attack on Lone Pine. Following an intensive artillery barrage, the signal in advance was given and the battalion began to advance on its objective. The battalion's war diary records: as soon as we appeared on the parapet, the enemy artillery opened fire with shrapnel and high explosive. But the men rushed straight on and into the Army's trenches. The Australians prevailed, and after several days of vicious hand-to-hand fighting, they held Lone Pine. Private Fred Kelly, however, was not to know that Lone Pine was won. Driver Atwood, a mate of Kelly's, wrote to a friend in Gilgandra that Private Kelly had been killed in the advance on August 7 in rushing to the Turkish trenches. Fred was hit in the head with a shrapnel bullet, and I fancy the pain of it caused him. On reaching the trenches to jump in, and at once before, the Turks had been cleared out. Unfortunately, where he jumped was right in front of one of the Turks' tunnels, used when they shelled the trenches. This, of course, was full of Turks, and they riddled poor Fred with bullets. Private Burke, who was with Fred and was carrying bombs, started to throw bombs into the front of the tunnel so that he would be able to get Fred. But it was too late, for he was quite dead. Private Burke and 6 more men guarded the tunnel all night, and in the morning, 74 live Turks were taken from it, and 15 dead ones, so the bombs found their mark, and Fred's death was avenged. Atwood added, "Poor chap suffered no pain. He was a good soldier and well liked by everyone in his company. He was always cool under the heaviest of fire. We were having a good talk of old times only the day before, and he felt confident of coming through. I feel his loss very much. If you are writing to his mother, tell her how keenly his death is felt at the battalion." Private Fred Kelly's body was eventually removed from the battlefield and buried by his mates. Today, his remains lie in Lone Pine Cemetery on the heights of Anzac Cove, beneath the simple epitaph, "As he lived, so he died, doing his best." He was 22 years old. His name is listed on the roll of honour to my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Frederick Kelly, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.